Hello, this is Analytic Power Agency, and my name is Alexey Prisnov, and we continue our English-speaking broadcasting for English-speaking viewers and followers. Uh, for those who are interested in the power markets of Russia, Kazakhstan, and all those events which are happening there. And today we continue with our focus on Kazakhstan. Uh, some events had happened uh, during last month, and we can see that there are some tendencies which we think could be interesting for you. It could be, at your attention, could be brought to your attention. And let's talk about so-called national project of Republic of Kazakhstan, which is called modernization of power in utility sectors. As you probably remember, for our last reviews, Russia and Kazakhstan face very formidable tasks in terms of the renovation of their power industry and utility sectors. And this is related to the fact that all those industries and all those facilities and assets have been built back in the Soviet times, mostly in the 60s and 70s and 80s. And today their wear and tear comes to almost its critical point, and therefore there is a need of massive investments into these sectors of the economy. And as you probably understand, these sectors are, the so-called base sectors, because without them, the economy doesn't work at all. And so, if we talk about Kazakhstan, the problem of Kazakhstan, it's not so specific in terms of money and calculation of investments, because if you compare it to Russia, it's more advanced in this sense, and it always, counts money, and there is a wide discussion on that. But in Kazakhstan, until the last month, probably we didn't see much of discussion on that. We mostly saw the situation when they put forward some tasks and put forward some projects, but they never discussed how they are going to cope with that, how they are going to finance that. But recently, in August and September and October, they have started to, pinpoint those things, and we saw first, first figures on that account. They were, quoted in so-called infrastructure plan for the whole industry until 2029, for five next years. And the figure was mentioned there. It was 40 trillion tenge, uh, which is, if you just divide roughly by 500, and you would come to 80 billion dollars. So it's easy to understand. But then, like few weeks ago, we saw the interview of Vice Prime Minister Kanat Bozanbayev, who is responsible for these sectors, and he mentioned the figure 10 trillion tenge, which is about $20 billion, which going to be allocated to the utility and power sectors. And just 2 weeks ago, probably, they have published the so-called national project for discussion. National project of the Republic of Kazakhstan, which is called, here you can see this, modernization of power and utility sectors. That's how it's called. And we had some time, to scrutinize this project, these materials which were presented on the governmental side. And We have reviewed on that in Russian for two or three broadcasts, and today it's two or three videos actually. It's not a broadcast. And today we just want to, make summarizing what we were talking about to our viewers in Russian, and we just, briefly, we just want to make you aware of what is going on there in English. Uh, let's start with our short presentation, and we can see here. Just a moment, please. Yeah, we have some troubles to move forward. Right. Okay, here we are. Okay, this slide shows the investment of the investment cycles on the Russian of the Russian and Soviet power sector. Uh, we see that from starting 65, it's some statistic, which was collected in the Ministry of Energy of Russia, but it also concerns Kazakhstan because the time until 1990 it was a unified country. Kazakhstan was inside of the Soviet Union, and we can see how the investment were there. These graphs for the investment, and so we can see that in 65, 70s, and it was quite high level of investments. This is in uh, billion of rubles. Actually, it's thousands of billions, so it's a trillions of rubles in current money, and this is quite high until 90. You can see this. It was some drop in 85, 1985, and but then you can see, the substantial drop in 90s. Of course, it's explicable. You can explain that it was all this turbulence in the former Soviet Union countries. And then in Russia, it was, this kind of peak here. Again, it was rise until it's 2010. And actually, it was related to the fact that they have started this so-called DPM program, this capacity delivery agreements. And now we can see also, but after that, the investments in Russia, it's on this level. If we look at the Kazakhstan investment cycles, we will see this bigger drop here and quite deeper in our drop, and then we don't see this rise in 2010 because they actually never built much of their power stations and power assets. Why? Because they were redundant in some sense after the split of the Soviet Union, and for some period of time they just have been using those assets and all those facilities which have been left by the Soviet Union to Kazakhstan. Uh, Mid of end of actually zeros, beginning of tenth of this century, they had the program which is called tariff in exchange of investment. It was some renovation of facilities of the power sector and also utilities sector funds. But it was quite short for about 5 years, and after that, again, it was a kind of stagnation. And now they face this problem, which also Russia faces as well. But Russia has much more, the resources and much more might to cope with that, comparing to Kazakhstan. But what is next? Today, they have, as I mentioned, they have announced investments into infrastructure within, it's a framework of Kazakhstan National project, it's called, for 5 years until 2029. And it's about 10 trillion tenge, or as I said, $20 billion. Yeah, here it's tenge and yeah. 20 billion, so it's a milliard in Russian. And briefly, I just describe what it's all about, and then we will just continue with that. You see, they want to allocate this 20 billion dollars or 10 trillion tenge in this proportion. About 6.2 trillion tenge they want to allocate to some this CHPP, which is cogeneration heat and power plants, which is used in Russia and Kazakhstan for both for production of electricity and production of heat, and supplying heat to their cities and towns. So-called, as you know, in Europe, it's is known as a district heating, actually, but I would put it, it's not district, it's like a city heating, because it's the pipes are quite long, and they supply bigger cities, and also the capacity of these power stations are quite high. It's usually it exceeds 100 megawatts. Normally, it's about 200, 300, up to 500 megawatts, which is quite big stations, comparing to, for instance, there are some of them in Scandinavia, but they're much smaller. Also in Canada, you have that. And so they want to put their 6.2 trillion of tenge. You can just roughly divide on 500, and you will get it in US dollars. And then about 2.63 trillion tenge, they want to put this to distribution network. Also, it's specifically to distribution network because, if we speak about main grid, which is, the bulk of power system, they're quite well. They have good tariffs, and they're earning quite good. It's a company which is called Kigok. But if we go down to this distribution network, we will see they are very depleted, in a bad shape in terms of financing, in terms of physical wear and tear. And so they want to put their 2.63 trillion tenge, which again, if you roughly divide by 500, it's going to be about 500 million, more than 500 million dollars. Next, which they are also wanted to invest in is, this so-called heating pipes. What I mentioned before. It's this district heating or city heating, because it's quite a long system in terms of kilometers. It's pipes. They're going, so it's like main pipes first, and then there's distribution pipes. They go into every quarter of the city. They have this pumps substation there, and heat goes to every apartment, every building, and also it's being used by some industry, commercial customers. And also it was built back in the 1960s and 70s, and of course, wear and tear of this, these pipes are very high, and so they have to invest and renovate them to decrease this wear and tear rates. And the last one is it's water supply and sewage. So here it's about 0.95 trillion tenge, which is about $200 million altogether. And they call it utilities, they call it utilities infrastructure. Okay, when they announced that, it was first reaction was where they get this money from, and this media, all these journalists, they wondering if they are going to open this coffins of national funds, or take those money from pension funds, and it was some worries about that. But when we started to study this project, we understood it's not the case. The case is that they want to make it in the Soviet style. This is a government, the big government of Kazakhstan, a lot of ministries, specific ministries which are responsible for specific things, specific industries, and they want to, in this manual management manner and management manual mode, to control everything, all this process of this national project. Now, first they have this national fund here, and when they have this money from there, and they use also this MPV company, which is this operational company. It's another fund which is called Byturek. It's managing fund. They call this company, which actually invests in. It's again belongs to the government, and monitors and invests in all the sectors of the Kazakhstani economy. And then they just not. Next, the process is here at banks. This banks of so-called second level. It's not the largest bank, not systems forming banks, but the second banks and commercial banks, which are going to credit all those industries, which we were talking about. With all those money we saw, those figures we saw in previous slide. What is role of those funds here? So it's national money or state money. They want to just subsidize the credit interest rates. So everything which is exceeds 10% of annually, they want to subsidize that. But the bulk of the money, it's the bulk of the credit itself, and also the 10% of interest, they're coming from these banks, and it means that they have to be recouped through their normal commercial operations tariffs, and that creates a lot of questions because the thing is that if you look at this situation, especially with these pipes, which are very obsolete, very depleted, and abandoned, and it's in very bad shape, as we said it, in water supply as well. It means that tariffs for the services for these companies have to be raised substantially, because if we to see this, the stakes of credit rates not more than 10%, but it means that the profitability should be about 15-20%, because if you want to return actually the body of the credit itself, the bulk of the credit, you have to have this kind of profitability, IRR. It's about starting from 15% minimum. No, it all depends on the time of the credit. But as I understand from this national project, and all this discussion, it's not 20 years or 15 years even. It's about 10 years, and it means because the inflation in Kazakhstan, real inflation, is about 15-20%, and this central bank interest rate of central bank stake, it's called I don't remember how it's called, but nevertheless, it's about 50% right now. So they just want to subsidize, from those funds all this difference because real credit is about 20%, but they want to make 10% subsidies for all this project. But it means, as I said, especially here in the water supply and heat supply, it means that the tariffs will rise up to like 30% annually, and it means also that because it's a bulk of the payment, these customers, individuals, and uh, which pay for for their apartments every month. It means that they have to in 2 3 years they have to pay twice. And of course, it's socially and politically unacceptable, and I don't think it will be, it will go through. Uh, Also, they want there is a list of the power station there. It's not only this CHPP, which I described earlier, also just this GT, for instance. I mean this combined cycle, so gas turbines and so on, and many stations there. And it means again, because of this as I said, it's about 6 billion, 6 trillion tenge, which is more than it's about like one 15, yes, it's about 15 billion dollars, which is quite high sum. And again, to return these investments through the tariff, it's would be very difficult and almost impossible. If there is no some other mechanism or some other instruments. Therefore, we have proposed them that they would change this approach to make to find a solution, for how to carry on with this national project. And our proposal is that bank system, all this commercial part, will be used only for power stations and this distribution network. Because here we propose we need to create, it's possible, and they have to do that. They have to create a competitive market, which is not available right now. They have a single buyer model, which is very it's a kind of a step forward comparing to what they had before, because before they have unbundled like 20 25 years ago, unbundled the industry. For instance, power sector, they have separately generation, they have separately this grid, they have distributions, and until recently they had even these retailers, competitive retailers, but now they are, so eliminating them for some reason, and just putting them back to distribution network companies. But they didn't manage, like in Russia, they didn't cope with this home task, and they didn't manage to build a competitive market, marginal competitive market. And so we just suggest them that they need to do that, to fulfill this homework at last, and to create this competitive market here. Also, market-wide capacity market, and to address all these needs of power sector through the market mechanisms. Of course, there are some subsidies there, and it's another question. And also, they need to address the issue of how to deal with this high cost of capital. And we also have some proposal on that, ideas. But if we look at this part of heating pipes and water supply, just we suggest that they just use directly these national funds, and they have about $62 billion right now in this national fund, and plus they have some other funds and some extra money, for instance, in pension funds, which is also can be used. And they would address and renovate completely all the system which have been built back in, back in '60s and of last century, mostly 60s, '70s, and of course they had to be completely replaced. And first of all, it will give a clear picture how much money they're going to use from these funds, because that first approach, which they proposing right now, the government, it doesn't give any answer on that. It's very difficult to understand how much money they're going to spend, and it's not a transparent procedure there. But here's market mechanism we suggest here, and as you see on this slide, this government much smaller. It's not a Soviet style when you manually do everything. You have to regulate the market. That's the main function of the government. That's our approach. That's exactly what is going on in Kazakhstan. The discussion is underway right now. And there are some other topics as well. For instance, they speak a lot about so-called, retail level renewables located at the, behind the meter at the customers. And they increased this level of capacity for those kind of so projects and units. It's 200 kilowatts right now, which is very high, as you probably understand, because in the United States it's about 80, in Russia, for instance, 15, some other countries like 50, they have 30, 35, but in Kazakhstan they say, okay, that we are going to fight with the increase of tariffs, and they're increasing very formidably. It's about 30% annually for last 1.5 years, about 30% of increase of electricity prices in Kazakhstan, and the wholesale prices are now higher than in Russia. But out to our understanding, all this, their move to lift their, this level of permission level for renewables at customers behind the meter renewables. I don't think it's something which can solve this problem, because without market, they are not integrated in the market, and they can bring only some, this distortion of the signals, especially related to the tariff of this distribution network, which is right now it's in very bad shape because of underfinancing for many years, and therefore we told them that also the only way to continue with that to find a right solution is to create a competitive market, and we are ready to help with that. Also, I know that some foreign companies and foreign consultants, the consulting companies, they're also ready. And but the thing is that there is a need, we need a political will on that, so political solution, and we hope it will be in place sooner or later. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to describe at this time. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Sign up for our channel. Time to time, we will continue with our English speaking broadcasting. Thank you.